Alright, it's a pretty beautiful house, huh? Pretty cool one, like pretty impressive. And we are going to do a video I wanted to do for a very long time, which is a real estate kind of breakdown, going through how I film real estate. I don't always film real estate this way. I'm going to show you one way of doing it. There are a few rules when you film real estate that you want to follow always. So we are going to cover all of this, but that covers white balance, having a straight camera, gimbal moves. But if you follow just like 2, 3, 4 rules, like you should be alright and get a pretty cool video. So we are going to get started. Today I'm using a slider, which is great to get those very nice shots, very smooth. Everything is manual. I'm controlling the camera with that ball head, and I've got a slider, and basically I'm going to create my moves directly on this slider. You don't have that bump that you get with a gimbal. So right now Nelson is filming with a gimbal. If I walk, you might see some up and down. Even though Nelson is very good at filming with a gimbal, you might see some wobble up and down, and I really don't like this look. So sometimes when I'm filming a beautiful house like this, I'd rather go full on and use a slider. One main inconvenience with the slider, it's very bulky and it's very hard to move. You'll see me moving through the house every time I grab it. I have to lock my camera, make sure it's not sliding anywhere, and moving, trying not to bang the doors or the walls with the tripod, make sure everything is flat, even, and reset. Whereas when you are with a gimbal, you just walk in. And I think we are going to do another video in another house where I'm going to film with the gimbal and show you what can be done and how I do it, and you'll see how much faster it is. So this setup is really good if you want to get a more refined look, I would say. But keep in mind that's going to take a lot more time to set up and to move in between each room, and you don't always have time. So we're going to get started and get a few shots. The light is very nice. It's 6 in the morning. I'm going to film inside because the reflection in the house is really nice, and maybe get a few outdoor shots. And yeah, let's get started. Yo. Alright, so one thing I like to do is actually on a lens like this, closing down quite a lot the aperture to get that all in focus effect. If I can give you one piece of advice is when you arrive somewhere, is just have a look and see if there is anything to move. Here, for example, in this shot, if you look on my screen, there is a blue stool that's not working in the frame. So I'm going to move that stool away and get the shot. Every time you walk in a new room, make sure you've got the lights on, for example, and there are no beans and no mess. The cleaner it looks, the better your video will be in the end.
You also got to be careful with dogs.
Dog food. Another thing is with angles, like don't stick to the wide angle always and walk in, push in. Here, like the shape, very nice. By just tilting down the camera and rotating the camera on the slider, we can get some like some very artsy kind of shot. That's always good to put inside the video. Focus on small details. Like don't always think that real estate has to show everything. Sometimes a small detail like this tree here, this grass area is really nice, and I really like as well the reflection I can see right now in that window. So I'm just going to get a single shot of that. It's going to add some more life to your video. One thing to not always take off your shoes. It's just being respectful. So one thing when you walk into the house, yes, like we said, make sure everything looks super clean and turn on all the lights. So here, just notice I want to film that corner. There are some very nice lights in the staircase, and this area is still off. one thing you need to make sure, especially in a house like this where like everything is symmetric and very square, is to have your camera level and all the walls straight. So you don't want to be tilting down and have the walls having that shape, or nor you want to be tilting up and have the walls opening this way. This is as well valid with gimbals. So usually with gimbals you can lock the tilt axis. I would recommend to do that. Unless I'm doing some kind of artistic creative shot and I need that angle, I'm always making sure the camera is looking straight. So here I'm using a 24-70 for today's shoot, and I'm filming in that very small bathroom. So it looks very big for you because right now that camera has the 12-24, so I look quite far from you, but I'm actually very close. And that space here is pretty small, so that's where for smaller spaces you want to use a wider angle. Today I'm going a bit different with this camera, where I'm not going to use any wide angle, so I'm challenging myself to find angles and locations for the camera to be a bit more creative. One thing I always do when I come to a new house that I'm going to film is I do a first tour. I'm going to walk and ask eventually the owner or the real estate agent to take me around and show me the house and show me the features they like. Especially if it's the owner, they always like know some little things that you might not notice when you first walk in. Ask them what they really like about the house and maybe think about focusing on those features. One thing to note is I'm not going to film all the rooms. Some of the bathrooms I'm going to leave them. You can show only so much in one video, and you want to keep the video fairly short to not lose interest. So for example, I'm not going to focus on the laundry room or the garage here today because there's so much more to show. Yeah, one important thing is stick to your schedule. If you say you're going to be 1 hour long, don't stay too long. Now I'm going to try not to drop that in the pool. One thing to keep in mind when you do real estate is you don't want to have any yellow walls, and that's one big issue when you walk into different rooms with different kind of lighting situations. Some are tungsten, some are using incandescent, so you're going to have some rooms that are very warm and some that are very cold. I would suggest that if you're not using a camera that's capable of shooting RAW and you're not capable of changing the white balance in post-production, to make sure you nail a white balance in camera. So there are different methods to do so. I've made a video, actually I'm going to link it up here, where I explain a bit more about white balance and how to nail it every time, and if you didn't have the perfect white balance, how to correct it after in post. The earliest your white balance is good, the easier it's going to make it into your editing, and it's going to look a lot better. And that's pretty much it for this video, guys. A few things I forgot to mention while filming on location is that I'm using a Red Gemini in this case, and one of the reasons why I'm using a Red is because of the dynamic range. The dynamic range of this camera is really good, which means I'll be able to retain a lot more information in the highlights and at the same time retain information in the shadows. So in scenes like when I'm filming inside and you can see a window at the back, instead of having that window blown out in most cases, I'll be able to recover the highlights and still see what's outside while still properly exposed inside. So that's one of the main interests. And obviously you don't need a Red to film real estate, as well as you don't need a slider. And this is why I'm going to keep this part in for another video, where I'll be using the Sony a7S III, which I'm filming on right now, which has a lower dynamic range, and as well I'm going to film with a gimbal this time. I'll be as well covering the editing part of a real estate video, so that I can show you from the start to the finish and delivering the final video. So let me know what you want to see in this video. Another important thing I forgot to mention is, before going to any kind of real estate shoot, is I use an app like Sunseeker or Starwalk on my phone, And when I'm on location, I'm going to have a look where the sun is going to rise and when it's going to set, and decide with the owner or the real estate agent what would be the best time to film the house. So for example, in Australia here, if the house is facing east, I'm probably going to film at sunrise because I will have that nice light hitting the house and coming inside and eventually give me a better light. Whereas if the house is facing west, where the sun sets, I'm going to film more in the afternoon, the later afternoon. One time I will always try to avoid is filming at noon because the light is way too harsh here, and usually the rooftops are all white, which means they will be overexposed and you won't have any sense of depth, because having the sun lower in the afternoon or in the morning means the shadow of the house will be much longer and gives that perspective to the viewer. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and please leave a comment below if you have any questions or if you want to see something specific in the next video. Tschüss!